What if you could actually get clients when you wanted? In fact, what if you had more clients than you ever needed? Having people raise their hand to want to work with you every single week. Well, today on the show, we're going to talk about client flow and how you can unlock client flow into your business and the benefits that it can provide for you in your consulting business. So, client flow, what is it? Well, it's the flow of clients in and through your business. If you think of cash flow, it's not just cash coming into the business, it's also cash moving out of the business and your ability to predict and forecast how that happens. Now, for a lot of consultancies, they are just getting referral-based work, or maybe they're pitching and proposing for work. And in that format, we're really relying on some external source to provide opportunities for us. And so in the select consulting model, which is the one that we talk about more often than not on this show, we are trying to create a sales function within the business to give us the freedom and flexibility to have choices, to have the choices to select when we work, where we work, anywhere in the world, and really become very selective about the clients that we take on. Now, ability to be able to be selective about the clients we take on means that we need more clients than we could ever engage with, and in fact find ourselves in a situation where we can really audition them, not in a way that that is ego driven or anything like that, but in a way that makes it feel like a really smooth and valuable process for the client that's involved in it, but enables us to see, is this a client we want to work with? Is this a client that'll actually do the things that they need to do to get the results? And can we get them the specific results, milestones, and outcomes that they desire? A key with the client flow, and why would want client flow in our business, is not just for income. Now, the ability to have income flowing into the business is absolutely key. And as I said before, if you're just getting referrals coming into your practice, that it means that you are waiting on someone else's ability to sell you out there in the market. Now, if that person goes away or your referrals dry up at any period of time, you don't have the function inside the business to be able to get clients when you want. And it's kind of the idea of having one of those legs of a three-legged stool being referrals instead of a sales function. If the referrals dry up, the stool falls over, so does the business. And so a select consultancy, which is the consultancy we recommend, which is the one that enables you to work when you want, with who you want, anywhere in the world, really relies on three different aspects, one of those being client flow. So we have an abundance of that work coming into the business, so we can get very selective about who we work with. The other parts of the select consulting model that are important is, two, you need strong expertise. In fact, really, that's the fundamental piece. If you don't have strong expertise, we're talking about deep experience or deep expertise to enable you to help someone get results, then that is the missing link for you. You might have had intellectual expertise, you might have even a doctorate or a master's, but until you've got that practical expertise where you've been able to get results for people a number of different times in a row, you really don't have the expertise to be able to promise real results and therefore sell on value. Selling on value is about knowing that you can get someone the result so that you know that this amount of money that you're going to charge for the result instead of charging on an hourly rate is something that you feel very confident and comfortable to be asking for. Most people won't ask for that because they see their role as doing specific work rather than getting results. And the select consultant is focused on getting those results. And I'll talk more about getting those results with client flow in just a moment. So expertise are absolutely key, and those expertise really are about having the wisdom, which means the implementation of an understanding of what that takes to get stuff done and results made, right? So expertise on the other side of a triangle, we've got our client flow, which is what we're going to talk about more today. And the third side is really creating an authority brand so that people know you, like you, and trust you. They are raising their hand to work with you over time. But that client flow piece really comes from connecting the market from where they are. They are strangers at some point because we're not going to rely on referrals to do that. We're going to actually connect with a market of strangers. And we have a process, which we call the Codex, that enables us to connect with those people and bring them into the business. That is client flow. Now, why do we want client flow outside of the obvious cash injection into the business? Well, we want client flow because for two other reasons. Number one, we want to be able to exit clients for all sorts of different reasons. Number one, it forces us to become really good at what we do. We engage clients, we're able to communicate our value to them, we work with them, we help them get a specific result, and we move on. All right, so if we become the linchpin within someone's business, what we haven't done is gained the expertise to be able to get them a result and enable them to grow without us or continue without us. There are plenty of consultants out there who are not really consultants but glorified employees who will work with an organization and make themselves a linchpin or even a cog in the greater machine of the business that they're helping out. And so to take that cog out actually breaks the machine. So they can't really leave the situation without actually leaving it poorer than when they were engaged in the first place. So they actually disable the company by doing that. So the better way is to know that you're going to be releasing the client. You are going to be stepping away from them at some point, which means that you are engaging them, enrolling them, getting their expertise, your expertise connected with their expectations, delivering the result and exiting. Now that doesn't mean you're not going to work with that client again. You may come back in the other end and find another problem to work on. But we don't want to make ourselves a part of someone else's business, because in doing that, we're actually disabling them and often becoming a part of the furniture. And for anybody who has been in an engagement with a client for, let's say, more than 3, 4, 5 years, you came in with some expertise that were refreshing and interesting and things that they really valued. Now, if you became part of the overall machine, you've really sort of become at best a glorified employee, and that expertise, that third party perspective really starts to go away. And in actual reality, you start to become you get inside of the bubble, which means you're inside of the problem with the client rather than being really where a consultant should be, outside the bubble, looking down and actually seeing things that the client can't see. It's the woods for the trees analogy. The other reason that you want to actually have client flow is, yes, you're going to take people through this, but we're going to get more clients then moving through your organization, which enables you to improve, because you're seeing more instances of slightly different variations of the same problem that you might be solving, especially if you're niching. I hear of a lot of people not wanting to niche because they feel like the business will become boring. Yet I also see a lot of the same clients working with the same 10 clients and actually never evolving. They're always just sort of helping with the same thing and never getting better. If you want to have a select consultancy that is world class, if you want to get very good at the work you do, then you want an influx of fresh clients coming through the business so that you can continue to improve and evolve as new experiences come to you. Now, the other thing that's good about that is that new contexts happen because the world around you changes. New environments, different clients with slightly different problems. You are introduced to new contexts, and so that you can start to see the problems you solve and the results that you create through different lenses. And so each client you work with gives you another lens to look through and another experience and a depth of expertise that will instantly make you better. So you want to have that flow of clients coming through the business. Now, you might be early days in your business and really it's about client flow to get more clients so that you've got enough clients for the income that you want. But I just wanted to show you long term that even if you've got the right amount of clients, you still want that client flow, because you want to be releasing clients once you've got them a result and bringing new fresh blood into the business so that you and your business continue to develop and evolve. So how do you get client flow? Whether you're starting your practice and you don't have enough clients, or whether you've got an existing practice and you want to be able to refresh it with new blood into the business, there are 4 steps that we need to move through, and they are in the Codex. The first is getting contacts together so that we've got people that we can be having conversations with. And at the end of the day, you know that you've got contacts because you have a certain number of lists. Now, the lists that I recommend, and we're going to be doing some training on this soon, is you have your 120 list, which is 120 names, which is kind of like a base list that you might contact once every 90 days. That list has mayors of the town, if you've ever heard me talk about that before. It'll have referral partners, because they are still useful and are the cream on top of the business. It'll have your existing clients, potentially past clients you want to work with again. It has some other connectors and people who are potentially leaders in the industry who can connect you with other communities. Now, the 120 list, we've got a whole bunch of training on that if you do actually want to have a look at that at some other time. But the 120 list is one of the lists, and it's kind of like the phone-based contact list that I recommend every consultant has. If you haven't got into digital marketing, if you haven't got into even broader networking, or if you are still working to understand how you can be marketing and creating a sales system in your business, having a 120 list will still serve you even if you don't have those other marketing functions happening. So the 120 list is easy to enable you to have a contact list of people that you should be speaking to regularly. So having a 120 list is key. Another one is the Royal list. And the Royal list is actually that Mayors of the Town list. I recommend you have 22 of those. And the way I play it out is very much like a deck of cards. There are 4 suits, and each of those suits have 5 royal cards. And so we're talking about the ace, the king, the queen, the jack, the 10, and that gives you 20 all up. Now there's 2 more, which are the jokers. And so within any industry, within any sector, wherever your area of expertise are, there are at least 22 leaders that you can tap into. Now, again, we get into this sort of stuff in a deeper training as well, but understanding that it is important for you to connect to the mayors of the town, the different leaders of communities within your sector, gives you access to be able to find opportunities, potentially presentation opportunities, sponsorship opportunities, other introduction opportunities to people who have access to the communities that you want to get in touch with. So the second one is to make sure that you've got that Royal list. And then the final one, which is really the keystone list, the list that you've got that's actually an asset within your business, is a list of qualified leads. Now, qualified lead is that lead that you've identified could use your services. Now, there are plenty of people out there and even consultants out there who are saying, well, I could work with anybody. All right, if that's you, I would like you to think again that if you're trying to work with everybody, that's about 8 billion people in the world, and you're going to spend a lot of energy going in a lot of different directions trying to communicate with them. Rather than doing that, focus in on a specific identity of client, someone who you can speak to and they see what you wrote or they hear what you said and they go, that's me that you're talking to. So rather than demographics, actually identity. So an example of an identity might be, well, Russell, John, Sally, all right? So there's the closest identity, and every time that you move out further from that, the message that you're actually presenting gets turned down. So if we're using someone's name, that's the classic, that's the height of identity. Then we move out from there could be Sally, but Sally's an accountant, and so she identifies an accountant. Or you could be talking to builders, all right? So do they identify as builders? Or they could be identifying as plumbers. Or they could be identifying as, I don't know, what's another one? Scientists, right? All these people who are identifying as a certain thing. That's a niche, right? And if you go further out from there, you go from accountants and go, well, I'm speaking to business owners, right? Suddenly the sound's been turned down a fair bit, because I know that there are business owners out there who are business owners, but they don't think of themselves necessarily as business owners without taking a moment to go, oh yeah, I am a business owner. Yet if you actually name their profession, they would instantly prick up their ears and hear your message loud and clear. And so identifying either the sector that you work in or the identity that you want to work with, or more specifically maybe even certain softwares or methods of engagement, methods of things that people are using that you can fix. Specific types of software, for instance, are some of those, or certain systems that people are using. There are ways to get people to hear what you're saying, and part of that is by niching down and getting very, very clear about who it is you're speaking to. So back to the keystone list, which is that the keystone is like, this is the cornerstone, in fact, the center stone of the business that you're running in the sector. So we're trying to add as many of the people who are qualified, in other words, they could work with us because they have the right criteria. We want to add them to a list so that we can communicate with them on a semi-regular basis. So if you're not already doing email marketing, you may want to consider that as an option in your business. Now, you might be a traditionalist and you want to actually phone people up, and that's absolutely great. If you're going to do that, I recommend the 120 list is probably enough for you. But if you want to leverage your time, if you want to advance your business, in fact, build an asset that is saleable at any time in your business life cycle, then you want to build this list of contact details of people who could use your services. And then by making offers to them over time, which is we just went from contacts, we then moved to offers, enables you to have them raise their hand and say they are interested to know what the details are. So the first step of client flow, contacts, we want those 3 different lists, and we want contact details so we can speak to those people. That's when we move into opportunities. Opportunity is, how can we generate opportunities? Well, number one is to be able to communicate with people to say we're doing a thing. Would they be interested in it? Or would they like to know more information about it? And those things should be, and I've talked about this a lot through the episodes in the past, they should talk to the symptoms that those people are experiencing and the outcomes that they want instead. Making offers on a regular basis, and email allows you to do that in a very easy way, gets people to raise their hand. And as often as you're making offers, or as often as you're inviting people to take steps, that's how often you have these opportunities that become available. Now, those opportunities are going to go through a conversation, because that is the point of sale for a consultancy. And so we want to be having a conversation with these people. And so just speaking to them on email is not a conversation, but it's a place to start a conversation. And then we can invite them to speak back to us. We might have a conversation on email, we might take it off email, we might speak to them on the phone, or potentially move into a priority call, which is something that I've talked about in the past, which is a short 7 to 15 minute conversation to see if now is the right time to be moving to design, which moves us to design. So we've got contacts, we've got creating opportunities, getting people to raise their hand when they're interested to talk with us. Then we talk about design. Design is not trying to come in with a fleshed out idea, but actually working with the client to collaborate on something that it's much easier for them to say yes to, because they were part of the design. And so having a process that enables that design, rather than just going to someone, hearing what they've got to say, doing discovery, going away, making a proposal and sending it directly to them, there's a lot of hands-off in that, and then there's a lot of guesswork in that. My suggestion is to design with the client, and ideally, if you can, if it's going to be a big engagement, get a paid design piece with them. So actually do the scoping as a paid piece, or do the strategy work as a paid piece. You might be looking at an $80,000 engagement. You might only charge, say, $2,000 to $5,000 to do a bit of scoping, or to do a little bit of strategic thinking to enable them to design. But by doing that, you're already part of the conversation. You're an incumbent in the business. They're already working with you. They already have your payment details. So it's much easier to continue to work with you throughout the engagement. That being said, what I said before was that ideally you want to be outside of the bubble. We want to be able to advise them effectively. So you don't want to be so tied to the outcome of maybe doing the delivery in the strategy work. You want to be able to be a real third party to it, to say, is this a piece of work that I should be working on? Is there someone else that should be doing this instead, because it's going to get the result faster? And really being the advisor. I think that's absolutely key. And as you're going through that process in the early days with them, even with a small engagement, you are auditioning this client to say, is this the sort of person I want to work with? Now, if you've got an abundance of these opportunities, you can really be in that frame, rather than actually trying to be in that frame but needing the work. Right? So we want to get as much of the more leads than we'll ever need, because it enables us to, at worst, be able to be selective about the clients we want to work with, or at best have a waiting list. Right? So let's say we've got design going, we've got an effective design, they want to go ahead. Then the final key of the first part of the client flow is really to enroll them effectively. Now, part of that enrollment is with the 2, 3, 4, which is something that we recommend, which is what do you do in the first 2 minutes of that yes, or that engagement, after you've actually stepped away from the call or the meeting. What do you do in the first 2 minutes? What do you do in the first 3 days? And what do you do in the first 4 weeks? Because ideally you want to get them some sort of outcome, even in 4 weeks, even in a much longer engagement, even if you've decided that we're starting now, but we're not going to see any results for three months. What's something that you can get them as a little win in that first 4 weeks, so you can sort of cement the relationship and help them feel confident about the decision they've made to engage with you. All right, so this is all client flow. It's part of the Codex. It's CODE, it's code, and then the X is really about you personally and the X factor and the different elements that you bring to the design of your select consultancy. But if you take contact lists and you connect them into the Codex, then you're very quickly enables you to bring client flow into the business. And so with that client flow, it's going to enable you to improve what you're doing. It's going to enable you to feel confident that you can get clients when you want, because you know that if I do this activity, I'm going to get this outcome. And what I love about that is you can actually look at the numbers, you can look at the averages, and at the end of the day, know this is, if I do this amount of things, I'm going to get this result. So even if you are a consultant of one, even if you're just working as a solo practice, making sure you're keeping your numbers. How many contacts am I making? How many conversations am I having? How many of those are moving through to a first purposeful conversation, an intentional conversation, which we call the priority call, so that you can understand how much work you need to do to generate client flow opportunities. And finally, the first thing, which is to go back and say, what contacts do I want to make? Who is going to be on my keystone list? Who are the qualified contacts? Now, if you haven't done that work, then actually taking the time to identify who specifically you would like to engage to be on your lists, on your contact lists, is key. And I'm not talking about referral partners. I'm not talking about suppliers. I'm not talking about mayors of the town. I'm talking about specifically what clients do you want to work with. And here is a litmus test for you. If you can't identify where those people are so that you can go there to communicate with them, wherever the where is, then your clients are probably not niche enough. They're not specific enough. Yet if you were to say, for instance, I'll go back to the accounting example. If I say I wanted to work with accountants, I know that there is accounting associations I can visit. There are events for accountants. There are discussion groups. I know that there are magazines that are just like trade magazines specifically for those accountants. It makes life easier to get specific. And have a look. I've got an earlier video on niching, and it'll talk about the 4 areas of specificity for you to identify your niche. And you need 2 of those 4 areas for it to be a real clear and have that real clarity about who you're wanting to speak with. This is episode number 100 of the Your Consulting Business podcast. So I just wanted to say a quick thank you very much to all the people who have subscribed, all the people who watch these episodes every single week. In the last podcast that I ran, we ran it up to episode number 100 and I ran out of steam. Funnily enough, I can't believe we're at number 100 already, and I feel like I'm only just getting started. So there is a hell of a lot to talk about. The conversation about creating a consulting practice that actually gives you the freedom and flexibility to work when you want with whomever you choose anywhere in the world is such a big conversation. And so enabling people just like yourself to be able to build these consultancies, to enable them to really enjoy a professional lifestyle that they love, very gratifying for me, but also it is such an enormous topic. And if there's anything specific that I can help you with, please add it in the comments. Now, it might not be specific that here's a problem that you've got. It could just be, here's a topic I would like you to speak to. I'd love to hear some of those topics that you want to hear about. I want to hear about some of the challenges that you'd like to overcome that maybe I can create a video for and help you take those steps with or even without me. So I really love the stories that I hear from people about taking lessons from YouTube and from the podcast, where they've heard certain things that I've said and they've implemented them and they've got a result. So thank you for those people who are implementing it. It actually makes my time feel very, very worthwhile, and I appreciate it. So thank you everybody who's been watching and being involved in this. Thank you to Alfred, who is my editor, who's been involved in editing almost every single one of those 100 episodes. Until next time, my name's Russell Pearson. Stay passionate, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.